Welcome to the Physician Wealth Med podcast. It's wealth medicine for doctors. If you're a doctor and you have no time, it looks like you found us just in time. This podcast is for all doctors who would like to work on their personal wealth, but do not have traditional hours to do so because they have no time. We're here to jump into topics that will help you address your wealth both inside and outside of your practice so that you can live the life of significance you're dreaming of. You'll hear from your peers, you'll hear from industry professionals, and your host and wealth advisor, me, Kevin Sullivan. This is your time. Now let's get started with today's podcast. Welcome to another edition of Physician Wealth Med Podcast. We love to say that it's wealth medicine for doctors. And if you're ready for some wealth medicine, you're going to get some today with Dr. Tom Burns here with us. This is the second time we've had him on the podcast, and we're so grateful to have him back on. So welcome, Tom. Appreciate this.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for having me on again. That makes me feel good.
Oh, excellent. It's so good. Feels like a homecoming. We got to keep doing this. Let's put it that way. As you know, our podcast goes out to 4,000 doctors that are in a network, and we try to just bring relevant content to them on their time because we know everybody's busy, and podcasts are a great way, whether you watch them on video or listen to them on audio, is a great way to jump into your financial success and your goals on your lunch break or when you have some downtime. And it might be 10 o'clock at night for a physician to do this. So we cater to them, and we just want to make sure that we bring this type of content. We can't get any better than Dr. Tom Burns on our podcast. I mean, come on. This is excellent. Let me just give you a little bit of intro to Dr. Burns. He's an orthopedic surgeon. He also studied sports medicine, and he has been a volunteer physician for the United States ski team ever since 1990. That alone would keep you busy enough right there. Tom, I love what you put on your website. It says, Tom decided early in his medical career that medicine was his W-2 based trap. How true is that? If you're a W-2 employee or receiving a W-2 only, what a trap that is. So maximizing leverage and passive income were his path to a wealthier life, and I can't agree more. He's carved out his financial success, creating a consistent and predictable stream of cash flow through real estate investing. He is a well sought out after speaker. He's sought after, and that's great because when people are going looking for you, they know you've got something to say that can really make a difference. He's a great mentor and a coach. He lives in Austin, Texas, and his heart and his humility is about the same size of Texas, too. So the more you get to know him, the more you'll see that on display. He also has a private real estate equity firm. He's also the author of the book, Why Doctors Don't Get Rich, right here. And I do have a copy of it, and I've read it. And I think when we talked last time, I was talking to you about the financial advisor chapter that you wrote in there. But it's all good, my friend. It's all good. His circle of friends is outstanding, and yet his humility leads him to help people day after day make life-changing decisions to tackle their financial futures. And if you take one thing away from something that Tom is going to say on this podcast today, just even one thing that you can run with it, so to speak, you'll start or even continue your cash flow freedom journey in the right direction. I like to coin that phrase, your cash flow freedom journey. There's so much to say, so much to unpack. So let's get started. Welcome again, Dr. Tom Burns.
Thank you, Kevin. I want to come back just to get that intro.
Yes.
I really appreciate it. So, and it's interesting, on that intro, and you mentioned in the book about, I gave sort of an honest rendition of my thoughts on financial planners. And the reason I mention it is that, part of life and part of what I talk to people about is growth and evolving. And I will probably tell you that over the time since I wrote those words, I'm a little softer on what I wrote in the book. I'm a little bit more amenable to the public markets. I was not so public market minded. So the reason I say that is that anybody knows me knows I am not perfect. That's for darn sure. And made plenty of mistakes, but we all keep learning. So yes. I just wanted to tell you, I've actually kind of changed things. I better write a second book, so I can sort of buffer that a little bit next time.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, it is a soft cover book. So, that, I appreciate you saying that. No, there's room for everything. It's just what path do you want to follow, and what strategies you're trying to look for. And one thing that I would really like to get into today is just the mindset that physicians need to maybe do what you do, and how do you get started? I know that changeover. So I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions surrounding that I kind of sent you in advance, but give our physician listeners right now like an overview of who you are and how you've come to where you are and talking to other doctors about maybe doing what you do.
Sure. I'm just like, if you've got docs out there listening, I'm just like just about every one of them. I grew up doing kind of fun things and decided I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. I loved sports, so I thought I'd go into sports. So I followed the pattern that we all follow. Do reasonably well in college, went to med school, got the orthopedic residency, and went on and did sports and had a wonderful practice. I'll caveat that. I loved my practice. Now, along that journey, about halfway through residency, which was a 5-year orthopedic residency, I didn't have anything planned. I was just doing what I had to do. And, but just started noticing the doctors that were teaching me. We all know in residency, we're taught by, upper level residents and other attending physicians that are 10, 20, 30 years ahead of us. So essentially that's a little bit of a mirror into our future world. So we're supposed to become them, so to speak. Mm-hmm. I didn't necessarily like what I was hearing and seeing from these guys and gals. They were making quite a bit of money because this was a long time ago. This was in the mid 80s. They were making good money. Mm-hmm. They lived in big houses. They had lots of divorces. They worked late at the hospital. They complained about not having control, and they just weren't happy folks. I wanted to be a happy guy, a little naive of me probably, but, I wanted a little bit of control so I could decide what to do and didn't always have to have somebody telling me what to do. So that's just when I started looking for other stuff. Real estate was not my first choice because I didn't know anything about it, but I fell on it eventually and it fit with my lifestyle because you could do it with partners or you could do it by yourself or with partners. You could do it full-time, part-time. It moved slow. You didn't have to be the smartest guy in the room. And it was just pretty much simple math. So I just started learning about it. And nothing special, Kevin. I literally, once I started practice and paid off the bills that would keep my family relatively secure, I started taking that education and sort of, as I said in one of the chapters in my book, getting the game. I just jumped in and started doing something. Back then, we didn't have necessarily syndications that you could look at. Folks like me, didn't necessarily have avenues into those sort of investments yet. So you had to buy stuff. So I went and bought something and learned my lessons and bought some more. And things just organically grew over time, grabbed a partner or two, learned a few things. And it just it grew along with my orthopedic practice. So it was a lot of fun. And eventually it was making more than my orthopedic practice. And I kept practicing for another dozen years.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I know you had made a comment at one point. I don't even know where I picked it up, so clarify me if I'm wrong, but you were looking at if the lifestyle of the doctor is what it is, like we had kind of mentioned divorce and big houses and stuff, and you're going to earn that kind of income, but have that type of outcome, you didn't want to have anything part of it.
Yeah, what I'll usually say is I didn't want their money if I had to have their life.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, absolutely.
You got it right.
So for new doctors that are just maybe have not heard of you before and what you're doing, tell them a little bit about that.
All right. So for your new folks, you're not missing that much. But anyway, ask the question again about what? About how to get started?
Yeah, for your new listeners, how you get started, maybe a little bit about your story, and then we'll move on to some of the other categories. Sure.
Okay. So I decided on real estate for all the reasons I mentioned before. And my first property was a little student condominium on the West Campus of the University of Texas. I live here in Austin, Texas. So I bought a little condo. I knew I had kind of learned some things. And so I knew how to do the math and figure out if maybe it was going to make some money. So what I did was I looked in the newspaper, which I always joke that's sort of like a, handheld Craigslist for people. I looked in the newspaper in the classified section. There was a condo for sale down on campus. So I called the number on there, met the guy. he turned out to be the broker and the property manager. So we looked at this place. The numbers looked like they were going to work. I thought, well, maybe I should buy this. So I had to ask him. I said, what do I do? He goes, well, you got to put in a contract, got to put in an offer. So that's awesome. How do I do that? He said, I'll do that for you. So we did that. We won the deal. Then he said, great, you won the deal. I said, awesome. What do I do next? He said, well, you got to get an inspection. You got to get some insurance, and you got to get a loan unless you're going to pay cash. And I didn't have that much cash. So he helped me with the inspection, which is a guy that I used repeatedly after that. And I knew some guy that I had met at some party that was a banker. I called him up. I said, I'm supposed to get some money from you. So, what do I do to get it? Yeah. And he started asking me for tax returns and cash flow statements and all kinds of stuff. I almost got mad at him for asking me for all that stuff, but I learned about the fact that the banks need all that collateral and they're going to give you debt. So I ended up buying the place. It made me about $100, $150 a month in cash flow. That is not going to change any doctor's life, but it does kind of twist your mind a little bit. It changed, because that money came in every month, whether I was working, vacationing, playing with my kids, sleeping, it just didn't matter. It just came in. And by the way, the guy that showed me the place, he managed it. So after a couple of months, I decided I liked that. I was getting a little bit of an addiction to this passive income. And so I called him and I said, hey, you got another one of those? He goes, sure, I got one down the street. We went and looked, same numbers. I bought it, took less time, less aggravation. I still learned some lessons. Then I bought another. And so before long, I knew that market like the back of my hand. I could tell you in 5 minutes if it was going to make money. I bought one sight unseen, and I bought one for no money down. I don't recommend that. It just turned out that I knew the market so well. I knew it better than the seller and better than the seller's broker. I bought it for way under market, and the title company wrote me a check at closing. So that's where your education really helps you out.
Yes.
So
yes,
that's where it started. And, you get confidence with each one. It's one step after the other, right? And all of a sudden you look down and you've climbed 1,000 feet, right? It's like climbing a mountain. So I looked for those. Finally, that market dried up. I looked at some other things. I bought a little mobile home park. I bought some discount notes. I would buy anything. I didn't care what it was. I'd buy anything that I could put in my asset column to coin a phrase from Robert Kiyosaki. I just wanted something that was going to create income for me. And basically, to keep the story shorter, everything just kind of grew over that. I got some partners that somewhat actually sought me out. Projects got bigger and bigger and bigger, and started taking investors one day, and it grew to where it is today. So it's not been a perfect been a perfect story. I tell people that's the Facebook post. It's been a lot of ups and downs, a lot of lessons, but it's been a fun ride.
That's a fantastic story. I mean, it's just one deal after another, just making that mindset shift. I want to talk about that. But what have you been doing since the last time we had our podcast, a couple of years ago? What's been some things that you've been doing over the last couple of years to bring people up to speed?
Man, mostly business-wise, mostly pulling on the reins, trying to fix all the projects we had because, our projects went through COVID, which slowed, we were developing at the time. So, slowed the supply chains. And so that lengthened our carry and all that sort of stuff. So that was a problem. Then interest rates went up and then over deliveries came on. And so, for all of you that want to be a sponsor or general partner, it's really nice when you sell a place, but it's work. It is work, and you don't get paid till the back end.
Yes, and the waiting game. Yes.
Yeah, so we've been working on that, and we're starting to see some light at the end of the tunnel. It's starting to look good. Things are leasing up. We have certificate of occupancy for all of our buildings. We had 9 projects being built, so everything's getting tenants now. We're occupancy's moving up, so we're doing that. I've been trying to somewhat simplify life. You go through phases. So I'm trying to cut down the organizational chart so it's not so many entities and things, and trying to focus a little bit more.
Nice.
And I picked up tennis. So I've been working on my tennis game.
Have you really? Huh. Yeah. Now, have you picked up any pickleball, or is it straight up tennis?
Everybody always asks that. I'm gonna be obnoxious and tell them I'll play pickleball when I'm too old and too gimpy to play tennis.
That's what I'm talking about. Well, let's just say, because this podcast goes out to physicians, I have a question here. Like, what insights could you provide to physicians in this current real estate market? And we're going to tie that back into the mindset here in a minute. But what is there anything like a couple of points you could bring out for insights in this current market?
Sure. And real estate's not the only way to make money or passive income, but it's certainly one that fits for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's been some interesting times. Volatility does create opportunity. It's been tough for us, as I mentioned a minute ago, on the general partner side. But we're gonna salvage. Our investors are going to do fine, and everybody's going to eventually make their money. Probably just not as much as we thought they were going to make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's a good time. I believe, depending on the asset class inside of real estate, it can be a really good time to buy. If you start from the bottom, you got to be really creative if you want to do something with an office building or have special circumstances, because the office market's kind of in the toilet. There are things you can do with it, but that's not necessarily my skill set. I own one office complex, but it's medical office. So I need you guys to keep working, everybody to keep working, so I can keep tenants in my office complex.
Yes.
The mobile home area is still fragmented. There's still opportunity there, but like everything, you got to be in it. You got to look at a lot of deals. You got to kiss a lot of frogs. Storage has got a lot of people getting into it. Again, still a lot of mom and pops there, and then that's dependent on where the other storage places are built. So, and there's other things. There's land banking and stuff like this, but I'm a bit of a multifamily homer, right? I mean, I've been in the multifamily world for a long time. I've got industrial and office, but been focusing on multifamily since probably 2009.
Yeah.
And it's had its ups and downs. Our rents are down. They're starting to look like they might grow. Definitely, maybe, possibly, that sort of thing. No, the data looks pretty good. So I think if you can purchase something, if you want to developing now, it's going to take a couple of years to develop. I think those are going to come out of the ground at a good time, because the supply of new deliveries, which is new apartments being built and offered to the marketplace, it is falling off a cliff, because every developer in the world was chasing gold and built properties. And then they pull in and stopped. So that 2 years is running through its prime and running through its time. And most of those are going to drop off a cliff. It's starting already. So if you come out of the ground in 2 years, I think you'll be in good shape. I think if you buy something now that holds its head up, covers its expenses, breaks even, or preferably makes some cash flow, it doesn't have to be earth-shaking cash flow, but if you can provide a profit on a property that you purchase now, I think over the next 2 years, you're going to see some pretty significant rent increases. And I think the market's going to be kind to those that own property over the next, 24, 36 months. So whether you want to buy them on your own, whether it's small 4, 5, 16 unit buildings, or whether you want to find a good sponsor to invest with, I think those projects might be doing pretty well over the next couple of years.
No, that's very good. I mean, let alone the leverage and other tax incentives, from owning real estate and all that goes with it. I just love how Kiyosaki and then also Tom Wheelwright, they break that right down into very simplified ways to look at it, using leverage as part of a way to help reduce your taxes, thus killing that W-2 mindset, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with being a W-2 employee. It's just, if you don't like it or you don't have enough choices, start augmenting with something that's not W-2, and you'll see your blended tax rate start to come down.
That's it. Yeah, it's a great equalizer. What ways can doctors take action now to free themselves up to attain wealth? This is what we find when we're working with a lot of the medical community, is they're so bogged down working in the practice sometimes that they don't have a way to break free, and they see other people doing it, and it might frustrate them because they can't do it, or they don't feel like they can do it to break free to even think about this type of thing.
Yeah. So I would say you make time for what you prioritize. And it is, Teddy Roosevelt's quote about comparison, right? Comparison is the thief of joy. So be wary of comparing to other people. It's never as good as it looks. It's never as bad as it looks. But there's always a way. So if you want those choices that income will buy you, what it does, it buys you a little time. It buys you some control over your time, choices over your practice. Not everybody has the same situation, but if you can eliminate some of the annoying things, I can tell you from personal experience, the practice of medicine really gets fun. And you may want to stay and just enjoy fun medical practice, which was sort of my goal, my aim, or my wish for the population, is that we have a lot of happy doctors not working their tails off, but taking great care of the population. That's what I'd really like to see. So if you want to make that transition and you feel like you are just the most newbie in the world, rookie, listen to this. If you're not that much of a rookie, if you're listening to this podcast, because that's the most common question I get is, how do I get started? First thing is figure out why you want to get started. I mean, what's the deal? Do you want out of medicine? Do you want to just enjoy it more? Do you want to spend more time with your family, work on your tennis game, learn Chinese, play the guitar? I don't care what it is. Whatever your reason is, that's what's going to get you going when you run through these bad times like we've had in the last couple of years. Once you really know something that's going to pull you to your success or push you, however you want to look at it, then start understanding, start getting educated, start learning about real estate or stocks and bonds or options trading or whatever it is you want to do. And then try to hang out with people that are doing that, because that'll give you motivation, that'll give you partners, more education. The best way to find out what's down the road is to ask somebody that's coming back. So go find somebody that's already done what you want to do and ask them how they got there, what mistakes they made, how you can get there faster. So that's your network. And then, so you can learn about what's going on. You can get a good network. You can go to all the seminars and listen to all the podcasts in the world. At some point, you got to jump in the water.
Yes.
And I call it getting in the game in the book, but you got to get in there. Part of it is, and I would imagine you really probably beat this into folks or encourage them, I should say, is that you got to know where you're starting. If you're starting this journey, you got to know where you're starting. So you got to have a personal financial statement. You got to have a budget. You got to understand where you are, what you make, who you owe, and how much is left. And then you want to live on less than you make. And so, if it's a Tesla versus a Toyota, maybe the Toyota gives you that freedom a few years down the line rather than buying the Tesla now, that sort of thing. So set up a personal financial statement, get a budget, pay yourself first, put money away so that you'll have something to invest, and then find something to invest in, either a small syndication with a little bit of money or a small property, a single family home or a condo, or whatever your method of making that income is going to be. Start small. And because that's when you're going to learn. That's really when you'll get most of the lessons. So I suggest you start small, because you'll eventually get a lesson and you might as well get it at a discount. So
that's a good way to put it.
You put in $100 in a deal.
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be the same size lesson no matter how much you pay for it. And the more you get in experience, the more experience you get, the better you'll be. It's like I wrote in one of my newsletters the other day. I said, two men met together. One had money, one had experience. Before their meeting was over, the man who had the experience had the money, and the guy who had the money had some new experience. So you want to make sure that you get that. And then, you just keep learning. You just keep building one step at a time. And it does get addicting. It gets truly addicting to get that passive income, and you'll find more and more ways to do it. You'll become more creative. And I think you'll find the time. We are all very busy as doctors, and it's much busier now than when I was practicing. My daughter's she's a hospitalist, so I know what she does, and she's taking home work all the time. So I understand where y'all are, but there is a place. There's a way to do it. There's a priority. So it's just taking first step.
Yeah. And you definitely take it home. I mean, you can't leave it there. But we talk a lot about knowing where you stand. Nobody in this day and age should have to wonder about where they stand, or to have that foundation, or have financials at a moment's notice. That's what we call them here. To be able to produce your financials at a moment's notice, to keep them up to date. There's no substitute for good bookkeeping and accounting in your financials. And I like what you said. Now, if you're listening to the podcast right now, there's already been probably 50 things that you could write down and say, okay, that's the one thing that I want to run out of here with to act on. But I think what you just said was huge. Just make the decision, find out what motivates you to be able to do this. And I think motivation will start that desire for you to make the time, right? I mean, if that's how we're looking at the mindset.
Yeah, you got everything. That's why Simon Sinek wrote that book. Start with why. We did, we are all motivated by something,
Yeah.
whatever it is, something
Find
deep
your why.
inside, and you got to peel the onion and find out what your real why is. But
Yeah.
if you're going to be working 12 hours a day as a doctor and come home and try to build this second set of income, it's going to take some work because it's not easy, folks. It's very simple.
Yeah.
What I did was super simple, or I probably wouldn't have been able to do it, but it's not that easy. I burned the candle at both ends for quite a while. Now they call me lucky. And I hope that happens to you. You just got to do a little bit of work on the front end.
Yeah, consistency brings luckiness sometimes,
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Well, I do like that. I know the network and the people that you hang out with and the people that you're trying to aspire to that's already doing what you want to do and all of that is so important. I know you wrote on I use my glasses for this, but you wrote down that I think this was on your website. My goal is to help you build your rich life and your rich life network. And I think that's so important. Talk to us about how important a network is once you decide to do something like this.
Yeah. The people around you, there's certainly your social network that keeps your sanity, right? You got your family, you got your social network, but your business network is super important. You mentioned Tom Wheelwright. If I've got a weird tax question, I call Tom.
Absolutely.
You want to have somebody you can call for legal questions, accounting questions. What do I do if a pipe bursts in my property? Who do I call? How do I find a manager? That sort of thing. If you've got a bit of a Rolodex of people you can call, and and what you do is you try to help those, you try to serve those people by making sure your friends know those people exist. Try to bring them business. But your network, as Kiyosaki says, your network is your net worth.
Yes.
Sometimes you can be dropped on the ground with $0, and if you got the right friends and the right knowledge, you can build up a business again. So really, really important, and part of your network with your mentors and coaches as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. You've already talked to this, but one of the ongoing struggles surrounding doctors I see is making that first step, getting started. We already kind of talked about that, but you talked about the education. Maybe it's just simply going out and getting your first property, going to your first closing, right? And getting that behind you, or making that decision part of what you want to do moving forward is so important.
Yeah, it's scary. We all get scared doing new things. And so that first one is scary. I can promise you that condo, I was scared. Did I make the right decision? Buyer's remorse, all that kind of stuff. So, we try to help folks by, bringing them together with people that have done this a bunch. I like to walk through it with people while they're buying stuff for their first time. I'm doing it right now on a fourplex in Arkansas. Somebody's buying. I'm helping them with it. So it's nice to have a co-pilot with you.
Yeah.
And, it's like somebody holding your hand while you walk across the bridge. All of a sudden, it's not quite as scary. Then you're a little, maybe able to walk across the bridge yourself next time. So it's understandable to be hesitant about doing it, but you got to make some kind of move or things won't change.
Absolutely. A lot of times we talk about living the life of significance because you want to have significance as a medical professional as well. And you just have that heart of giving anyways as a physician, but the life of significance outside, knowing that like your wealth is taken care of, like your passive income is coming in. Now it's overtaken your actual salary or your W-2. Talk to doctors that might be just started. Maybe they've already started doing this type of thing, but what does life look like on the other side? When you know that it's coming in, you've left the other behind. What does that look like for doctors?
It's liberating. It is a lot of fun. I can tell you, guys, you stop taking call. I was able to fire several insurance companies because they were too problematic to deal with. I saw a reasonable number of patients and literally had a great time. I mean, I was able to spend 45 minutes with one, 5 with an, it didn't matter. I would spend time. So I got to know my patients, and most of us got into medicine for reasons other than money. Certainly we knew the money was going to be there, but you got to be somebody special to go through what we go through to become physicians. Yeah. So it was a wonderful profession. There was 12 years where I didn't really need much of my income, and I got none of my income the last 4 years. I pretty much worked for free the last 4 years. So just consider that. You get to work at your own pace when you want. People said, people would say, when do you work, Tom? I'd say 2 to 5 mornings a week, just depending on my travel schedule, but that was fun. So, and then when you're out, there are some that truly identify as being a doctor. I didn't as much, but I will transparently tell you, I still miss it. I've still been doctoring. I'm still seeing patients, it's just for free. And it might be, in this room right here, so people that call me all the time, I still send them to other surgeons, and, who knows, I may go back and start doing some of that stuff again. So you miss it a little bit. But the only reason I stopped was because I ran out of time. So I was running other businesses. So, if you've got nothing else that's getting you up every day, keep in mind that having a purpose is one of the better longevity hacks in the world and one of the better sanity hacks in the world. So you got to get up. You got to have some purpose to get out of bed, whether it's family, exercise, being a doctor, or buying another apartment complex. Just make sure you have some sort of purpose. You'll live longer and you'll be happier.
Absolutely. And again, if you have the purpose, that leads to less burnout, less struggle. If you know where you're going, if you got a goal in front of you, I think that helps all the way around.
So, yeah, imagine being able, if you're employed, imagine being able to say, look, I'm going to go part-time now. And if you can't handle it, I'll find somebody else that'll do part-time, because I don't need that much money, but I love medicine.
Right.
That's a fantasy I think a lot of folks might have, and some may just want to get out. That's okay.
Yeah, living by choice. You got the choice to do it, and you don't have to do it but do it because you want to. That's huge. Looking back, any regrets?
Oh, plenty. Absolutely. I think all the stuff I bought or built that I wish I hadn't built, I was never as intentional as I would suggest my students and mastermind members be, do as I say, not as I do, or not as I did. A little bit of intentionality goes a long way. I was a yes man, said yes a few too many times. So I'd probably be a little bit better at saying no to more things and saying yes to just the right things, which means I might have focused a little bit more. Yeah. But I'll counter that with that lack of focus has given me some pretty awesome adventures. There's been some pretty cool stuff. So, and the only other thing is, one of my regrets is diligence. You may trust somebody, you may really like somebody, but if you're in the business world and you're doing business with them and there's a lot of zeros after the first number, do your diligence properly, because that has caused me trouble, because I assumed human nature was the same for a lot of people. And there's others out there that would rather take from you than do the right thing.
Yeah. Well said. Very well said. Talk about your book a little bit. Why Doctors Don't Get Rich. You want to speak to that a little bit?
Sure. That was Robert's idea. Kiyosaki suggested I write that. I fought him on it for a while, but I thought, I guess I've been around, so I'll try to slap some words on the paper. So I wrote it all. It took quite a while. It was written with no business plan in mind at all. I didn't find out till later they had to have a website for a book, and all that stuff kind of grew afterwards. So none of it was planned. It was just designed truly to give hope and guidance to people that want to try to take control of their lives. If you read the book, you'll see that the first half of it is pretty much mindset, which you've mentioned several times on this podcast. It's not necessarily, how to buy an apartment or how to flip a house or how to build an office complex. It's all the things around it, what to think about, what'll keep you safe, what'll help you make money, what'll save you taxes, and some resources on where to go to start learning yourself. So it's kind of like hopefully teaching the reader how to fish so they can go out and create their own freedom.
That's it. That's excellent. Got one question for you on this. I don't know if I asked you this on the other podcast, but did Robert Kiyosaki buy your first copy?
He didn't buy it, but he got it. So
what I did, there you go.
So cheapskate. So what I did was, I uploaded it and I ordered the first book, the very first book. I ordered one book, and I got that book and signed it off to Robert. And then he, and I gave him the other book in a ceremony. The first book, I gave it to him, and I gave him the second one and said, hey, now you got your first book and my first book. So he hung them both up in the Rich Dad offices. So no, he didn't pay me for it.
There you go. Because I remember you saying that, I believe you were at like a car wash and you were reading it. You saw the book and you were reading it right there at a car wash.
Absolutely true. Car wash is right down the street. In fact, it's practically right across the street from the gym I was at this morning. So I pass it almost every day.
Hey, there you go.
It's still there.
Yeah. Would you mind talking a little bit about your mastermind? Like if a doctor wanted to jump in, and what does that look like for a doctor that would say, yeah, I would like to have that kind of a network and do the mastermind?
Yeah, so it's for a couple groups of people. It's for the one group you mentioned, and by the way, again, this happened just because so many people were asking. A lot of that, how do I get started, and how do I meet the right people? So for the early group, the group that kind of doesn't know what to do, where to go, we've got something really nice and affordable for them that really is easy for them to adjust, and it's basically soup to nuts on how to get started in investing in real estate and kind of start learning the network. And then we've also got a group of folks that might have done a fair number of transactions or might have actually exited a business and now they're supposed to become an investor. So I try to hook those people up with the right network of folks, and I try to bring in deal flow. So it might be real estate deal flow in various asset classes. It also might be Series A, B, C, angel investing, venture capital, sidecar opportunities. None of them are mine. They are just opportunities for people to see investment opportunities so that they can get a little bit more educated. And if they choose to invest, they'll contact the folks that present. So it's designed to show them what all kinds of investment deals look like, help them do their own thing, whether it's buying their own real estate or investing with somebody else, creating that network, and then, learning how to get started. I can teach them how to do a financial statement, but if they're your clients, they should know that already.
Hey, they should, right? Yes, sir. No, that's great, because I think there's a lot of value to plug in. And doctors, if you're listening, we'll have the links when we do the podcast notes or so. We'll put the links down so they can navigate to that and participate in that. I want to thank you for this time together. I wanted to know if there's any final thoughts you would like to say to our doctors.
No, first to you, thanks for what you do. I mean, if you're getting to 4,000 doctors, that's really helpful for them, because a lot of us are fearful of stuff. I can promise I was fearful when I got started, but I had a big enough why to kind of keep going. So if you're out there, if you absolutely hate what you do, then that's pretty good motivation. But, a lot of us, most of the people I talk to really like what they chose to do. Right. And just would like to do it with a lot less of the business of medicine, a lot less of the hassles. And I tell you, there are things you can leverage out. There are ways you can make your vocation a lot more fun and give it a lot more purpose. So do a little bit of extra work. You can find the time, and there's people there to help you. I'll be happy to help if needed, but there's plenty of others out there. So just keep going. One step at a time. You will reach the top of the mountain at some point. Just persistence and time is some of the best investment and education hacks in the world.
Well, that's excellent. This has been the one and only Tom Burns here today. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate all the insights. And if you're still listening to the podcast, I hope you've got a whole page of written sayings, one-liners that you can go back to and act on immediately. And I challenge you, take one thing that you heard today and just act on it. Make that a decision to say, okay, I want to look into this. I want to do that. You'll start your financial journey in the right direction. It could change the whole course of generational wealth for you. If you just act on some of these things here, whether you stay in practice or leave the practice or whatever your dream is, I think you'll be very pleased by taking that first step. So thank you again, Tom, for this time together.
Well said. Appreciate you having me on, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you, sir. That's our podcast for today. And remember, if you're not working on your personal wealth, who is? Please share this podcast with your friends and colleagues, and make sure you subscribe, like, and share. Any questions about what you heard today, please send an email to kdsullivan@lpl.com. Physician Wealth Meds, wealth medicine for doctors.